Good afternoon. It is 2 p.m. on Saturday, September the 15th. I'm sorry, it is 3 p.m. on Saturday, September the 15th. I had to push the show back today because I had an opportunity to hang out with some really great people of the Tom Powell Post, number 77 here in St. Louis, Missouri. They had a fundraiser today. They were trying to raise money for their operations here in St. Louis and find a new home. And let me tell you, if you have an opportunity to listen to Rhoda G. Rhoda G is a saxophonist. She's self-taught, and she's a winner of Live at the Apollo. And you can go online and hear her play. But if you get a chance to actually sit in the audience and watch her perform, it is an absolute treat. It is something I would suggest you do not miss. And so that was why I pushed the podcast back a little today, because I had to go support that group. I also encourage you to support any independent artists or local organizations that are help trying to better your community. And I'm going to put more into that little campaign there a little later. So today, what I wanted to talk about, so I'm going to give you a little scenario. Let's say you're talking to someone or a group of people, and you put forth an idea, and they mistake your idea. They don't really get or understand what you're trying to say, or they just don't trust that what you're saying is true, that it is your true intention to put forth that idea. So you present them with mountains of support that this is what you meant. You restate your intentions, what you're trying to say in a more succinct manner, and you give them every opportunity to try to understand what you're trying to say, what you're putting forth. We've had, and then that person or that group continues to mistake your intentions. We're going to talk a little bit about that coming right up.
Welcome to Altitude Adjustment.
Okay, so recently, so it started over a year ago. Colin Kaepernick took a knee, and he stated what his intentions were, why he was doing what he did. And there was this big pushback that that's not what he was doing, that he was insulting veterans, and he was insulting people who help protect he was insulting the flag, and he was insulting people who protect the country. So there was this long discussion, and several people have weighed in to try to help clarify what Colin Kaepernick was doing, why he was doing what he was doing. And over, it has been made clear what he was trying to do. Nike, a little over a week ago, I guess, decided they started a new campaign. Now, Nike is known for pushing the envelope and going for the boundaries, trying to find, be edgy in their advertising and getting people to see themselves beyond where they are. So the first thing that happens is the people who, and many of them were people who pushed back at the first iteration of Colin Kaepernick and claiming that he was doing something that he himself says he was not trying to do. He, along with many other people, presented evidence after evidence, asserting why he was doing what he was doing, explaining how to perceive his actions and his behavior, and giving everyone ample opportunity to recognize what the conversation was about. So when Nike puts forth its campaign, many of these same people insisted upon taking the discussion back to where it previously was, not acknowledging what even what Nike was trying to do. So Nike's putting forth a campaign. They're not necessarily supporting Colin Kaepernick's mission of ending social injustice, police shootings, and things like that. Nike's putting forth the idea that if you believe in something passionately enough, if you believe in something strong enough, you should be willing to sacrifice for that. And they chose to use Colin Kaepernick as an example. He's a very recent example of that. You just can't deny it. And yet we go back to the flag issue, the military issue. And so part of the reason that I understand why that is, because everyone can get behind the military, and everyone can get behind supporting our flag. And it then becomes a weapon to silence voices you don't want to hear. Now, the difficulty that I have, or the occurrence that really made me want to do this podcast, was the mayor of Kenner, I think it was Kenner, Louisiana. Yeah, Kenner, Louisiana, near New Orleans. Took it upon himself to try to ban Nike products, Nike's goods, from the public use in that area. Now, this is a Republican mayor who supposedly believes in the free market system, who supposedly believes that companies should be left unchecked, that less regulation is better. Give companies the freedom to innovate, give companies the space to accomplish what they want to accomplish, and society will be better for it. So we know that over and over and over that these people that make these claims don't really support the claim itself, because they continually, in situations where it suits them, do the exact opposite of what they claim that they want to do or what they believe in. And in his assertion for creating this, I don't want to mischaracterize it. Well, they just call it a ban, but anti-Nike policy. So he implemented this policy unilaterally, and his reasoning was he was protecting the military, he was protecting first responders, he was protecting the flag, and he was protecting the citizens of his community. Now, so his efforts, it was later rescinded because of the pressure that he received. But his initial action was that he believed single-handedly that the actions that he was taking was for the betterment of the community. without, I don't know if it doesn't say whether he received any kind of a counseling or if he had any people in his cabinet or in his office that was helping him to define what it is that the people want. But he single-handedly took it upon himself to try to impact the entire community. And then he wrapped himself in the flag, in the military, because that's his safe harbor. Because if you attack him at that point, then you're attacking the flag, you're attacking the first responders, you're attacking the community, you're attacking the military and all that. So he did not stand on his own convictions. It was, I think that this is bad. It's bad because it hurts the military. And so if you attack me, then you're attacking the military, you're attacking the community. It's an easy weapon to wrap yourself in that, to cloak yourself in that something that's easily defensible, than to not giving any supporting ideas or supporting reasons as to why that hurts the military. Why does that hurt first responders? Why does that hurt the flag? It's just, I'll wrap it in the flag, and that gives me all the support that I need. That gives me all of that I need to try to justify my actions or my behaviors. And so he considers himself an intelligent man. He considers himself an intelligent man. We've had the discussion on numerous occasions, in numerous media outlets, and numerous conversations in the news, on different media sources, about the intent of the Colin Kaepernick protest, why that protest, why he was doing that protest, and yet he never. We have still not addressed the reason for Colin Kaepernick's original protest. We are still wrapped, mired, and slogging through this false argument against these policies that are negatively impacting a large portion of our population. It is not just the 12% of African Americans that are affected. And we still are not getting to any meaningful conversation or dialogue about what is happening and why it's happening, which means if we're not having meaningful conversation, we're not finding solutions. It is just being kicked down the road. And the only repercussions that this mayor has received, as far as I can tell, is the pushback. Because he's still in office. He's still allowed, and I realize that when isn't enough to have you act to act on someone's behavior. We are in an interesting, for me it's interesting, and I use the word interesting because defining it some other way, I haven't completely settled on a definition, I guess. And so defining it some other way, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that definition. So I find it interesting. There are certain things that can cause an immediate repercussion. And that's not always the case. In the case of Les Moonves, it took additional pressure, additional information, something that brought down lesser, I don't want to call them lesser men, but lesser accomplished men. He was able to withstand, and it took to go beyond that. So what does the mayor of Kenner puts forth this idea that he doesn't support, that he doesn't provide any kind of supporting ideas and concepts that would make someone understand him and consider his behavior as a part of the conversation. So the only way we can look at it is it was a reflex. It was anger and emotion played out on a national stage, and he didn't believe that it was going to blow up as big as it did. That may be the case, but with the environment that we're in now, any small gesture or token or behavior or incident can become much greater than you had anticipated. So I would not give him space to say, because he did not anticipate the blowback, that somehow justifies or in any way allows for his behavior in any mitigation of his behavior. He has to recognize, as he's a public official, he was elected, he ran a campaign, he understands the difference between one word making the difference in a statement. He understands that if he uses and in place of or, it changes the conversation. It changes what you're trying to say. So he can't say that he does not, that he somehow is absolved of his behavior because he did not anticipate it would blow up like it did. It was a topic that pushed him to the point of doing something that would hurt others. So if he's saying, I took this action not knowing that it was going to hurt others, because the booster clubs that may be buying Nike gear, they may be getting a deal. They may be getting special considerations. And if his actions then alter that, then he may be causing them some great distress. And so his actions then become a reflex. It becomes something that he does not think through and consider the consequences. As far as the national dialogue goes, he's doing what I think a lot of people in his position want to do, and that is avoid the conversation. The longer we don't have the real conversation, the longer we don't get into actually taking positive steps to at least have the dialogue. We're not even having the dialogue. We're still at the point of presenting evidence that we need a dialogue. We are still at the point of presenting evidence that we need a dialogue. We are not at the point where people are actually having a dialogue on how to resolve this problem. We have, how do you, so his actions, though he believes well-intentioned, has consequences. And yet he has suffered no consequences for that. And as long as this continues, as long as people in his position are allowed to do that, we will continue to kick the can down the road about the conversations, and we'll continue to avoid finding solutions in a reasonably short period of time. So Nike is in kind of a catch-22 situation, the way I see it. So Nike is in the business of selling shoes, but also Nike is in the business of having a positive impact, social impact. Their campaigns are designed to get people motivated to do stuff, not just buy shoes. I'm sure that they want people to buy shoes, but do companies have a responsibility to the community to be responsible in their advertising and distribution and selling of their products? So Nike puts together the campaign. Some people are going to support the campaign. Some people are running around burning shoes. And with all of that, we're still not having a dialogue. So my question is how do we get to a dialogue? How do we get to some meaningful way to have this conversation and resolve these issues? Another gentleman was killed in his apartment recently by an officer. So people are dying as we avoid having these conversations. We've identified what's going on. We've identified the problem. And we're still having to identify the problem because there are people like the mayor of Kenner who continue to purposefully obfuscate the issues. Because as long as we muddy the waters, as long as we avoid having the conversation, things continue as they are. And more people die. In this case, they die. People are dying. So it is, for me, a sad situation that Nike is being used as a tool to muddy the waters and keep the conversation from happening. Hopefully we can focus and make sure that the conversation continues to move towards a solution. One other thing I wanted to talk about today, I'm going to move on from the Nike situation. And I didn't, I just ran across the article briefly, and it was an article where a high school principal grabbed a student. There was a gang fight that started in the school, and a video of the principal grabbing one of the students and throwing the student to the ground, pulling him away from the gang fight. Then the television station, and it was a local station. I don't know if this was carried nationally. I hadn't seen it. in the larger networks, but it was a local network, interviewed people who said that the principal was out of line. That because the principal threw the student to the ground, who was actually fighting. You can see the student throwing punches. You could see this crowd of kids around, and elbows and fists and feet are flying. And the principal grabs the student, throws the student to the ground. Now, they interview people who are going, he was wrong for doing that. That's not his job. The principal is the authority figure. The principal is the person that makes the determination that the police needs to be called. The principal is responsible for your child. But I thought it was reckless that people reflexively, I believe it was reflexively, went against the principal. Not that he had harmed the student, but I guess he was supposed to, he was in a no-win situation. If he stood there and waited for the police to come, there's no telling how many children would have gotten hurt. So if he'd done that, he'd have been admonished for that. Because he took action, you got people acting emotionally. They disagree with his action. If we don't support our educators in trying to get control of the environments in which they're responsible for, I don't know how we expect to accomplish anything. I was completely disappointed in people attacking the principal based on one video, because in the article there was no context as to why these students were fighting or how many students were fighting, or was the child who was thrown to the ground, did that child have a weapon? None of that was in the article. But people are attacking the principal for his behavior. So I'm going to say, if a microphone is placed in front of you and you don't have all of the facts, you might want to consider your answer more carefully. Because a quick emotional answer may do more harm than the good you think you're doing. Today I had a wonderful day. I'm going to wrap things up. I had an absolutely fabulous day. I had an opportunity to hang out with some friends at Tom Powell Post number 77. They're doing some great work here in St. Louis. Again, if you get a chance to hear Rhoda G, Asada Storm played, and always my friend Fred Saxy Jazz Walker did a fantastic job today. But if you get a chance to see any one of those, and I did get a chance to hear Kim Massey, and I really enjoyed listening to her sing. But make sure you support local artists and independent artists, because I think it will be a great opportunity for you to get more of the entertainment that you like, the way you like it. That wraps up today. The video podcast is going to be available for you on my YouTube channel. Just do a search on Lions Den STL. That should come up for you. Now, the audio podcast is available at Stitcher.com, Anchor.fm, the iTunes Store, the Google Music Play Store. And I want you to consider supporting the podcast. You can visit Anchor.fm/altitude-adjustment2. Any small amount will help. The internet is powered by your likes, shares, and comments. And I always say, likes, shares, and comments are electronic gold. So please, like, share, and comment on this and other episodes because it does matter. As always, be cool, be calm, and above all, be careful. Look out for the other guy because they may not be looking out for you.